Hey guys, Josh here, welcome to my review of the F1 2015 Singapore Grand Prix. This was the 13th round of the FIA F1 2015 season. Let's go for the race result then and talk about each driver's race, starting off with the race winner Sebastian Vettel, taking his third win of the season then for Ferrari. And it has been a really good season, but by far this was the best race. Ferrari were just on it from, Friday all the way to the end of the race on the Sunday. It's been a perfect weekend for them, basically. They've looked absolutely magnificent, have basically come out of nowhere and taken the fight to Mercedes. We thought this weekend would belong to Mercedes, or at least it would belong to Red Bull. But out of nowhere, really, Ferrari have come along, quietly with their upgrades and just absolutely stolen the Singapore Grand Prix really off Mercedes. I mean, they've just been overall much quicker. If you guys didn't know, Hamilton retired from the race, and Mercedes, Rosberg was down in fourth. And Mercedes just didn't have an answer for Ferrari really. Ferrari were much quicker. If you look in qualifying, Vettel I believe was 1.5 seconds up on the Mercedes. So just absolutely dominant driving qualifying. Absolute stonking lap in the closing minutes of the qualifying session, and just continued that fantastic form in today's race. Wasn't really challenged by Ricciardo, and led every single lap, just as Ricciardo led was in second for every single lap of the Grand Prix, as was Raikkonen, who was in third for the whole race. The top three then finishing as they started, with Vettel P1, Ricciardo P2 and Raikkonen P3. So P1 and P3 for Ferrari, absolutely brilliant result. For Red Bull then, P2 with Ricciardo, they've definitely got to be very pleased at that. They were never really going to be able to take the win off Ferrari, unless they had a lot of good luck, which didn't quite go their way, but still second place. Ricciardo and Red Bull can be very happy with that. However, in the other Red Bull though, Danny Kvyat, he was down in 6th place after starting 4th, lost out majorly in the first safety car period, just didn't really get the pit stop right. That dropped Danny Kvyat down into 6th place, and he just wasn't able to recover after that. Wasn't able to get past the Williams of Valtteri Bottas, who got on with his race very quietly, started in 7th place, but did manage to get up into 5th place, and he did manage to stay there pretty much since lap 33 all the way to the final lap on lap 61. So really good race for Bottas. Williams probably weren't expecting too much from Singapore, but certainly a 5th place is, exceeded their expectations really. So Bottas can walk away from Singapore a happy man. Nico Rosberg, can he walk away from Singapore a happy man? Yes, he's regained a bit of hope, I guess, for winning this year's championship. He's got 12 more points than Hamilton this weekend. But then again, he hasn't won the race, and that's what really counts. To be honest, Mercedes weren't on it really, and neither was Rosberg. He was a good 3 or 4 tenths off Hamilton all weekend. So even if the Mercedes had been dominant, would Rosberg have even been up there really? And probably wouldn't have beat Hamilton, but of course would have taken the win if Hamilton were retired. So I think Rosberg is very unlucky not to have a really quick car this race. Of all the races Hamilton to have a problem, Rosberg was desperate for it to be a weekend when Mercedes were completely dominant and he was going to be taking the win. So big shame for Rosberg really, but then again, 12 points gained on Hamilton, but actually he has actually lost 13 points to Vettel, and Vettel looking like a massive threat to Rosberg really. Vettel could easily finish the championship in 2nd and possibly 1st. I'll be discussing that in a future video, I won't mention it too much now. But anyway, let's move on to 7th place, and that was Sergio Perez. A really good race from the Mexican, starting down in 13th place. He had that disappointment in qualifying, was held up by, of course, Sainz's yellow flags, and just generally weren't that on the pace really in qualifying. The two Force Indias, were maybe possibly quick enough to get into Q3, but was certainly, only going to be 9th or 10th if they did get into Q3. Weren't really up to the pace of the Toro Rossos, but, Perez managed to keep them behind. Toro Rossos brought back into play thanks to the safety car. They made a great strategy call to go on the super soft tyres. Sainz let Verstappen through and let Verstappen have a go at the, the likes of the Saubers and I believe the McLaren. And then, of course, Sergio Perez at the end, as well as Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado. Verstappen managed to get through all of them apart from Sergio Perez, was stuck behind him for the majority of the closing laps really. Verstappen unable to get past Perez. Then Verstappen though wouldn't let Sainz back through, so after Sainz had let Verstappen back through, Verstappen didn't let Sainz back through on the second to last lap, despite being told by the team. So Something going on there down at Toro Rosso, I think a few words are going to be exchanged. The Sainz camp is not going to be happy. Just to remind you, if you guys can cast your minds back all the way back to Hungary, Sainz was done over in Hungary as well, as Verstappen was giving the lead pit strategy call. So, something's bubbling at Toro Rosso, and I think we could see that overspill if we have one more incident like this, because that's kind of, if you're keeping scores, 2-0 to Verstappen now, in the respect that Verstappen's got two things gone his way now over Sainz, which was both cost Sainz, Verstappen, cost Sainz in Hungary, and now he's cost Sainz here in Singapore. So I keep an eye on that story down at Toro Rosso. Something's definitely going to happen, I think, between Verstappen and Sainz. And Sainz, I don't think is going to be letting Verstappen back through anytime soon. Felipe Nasr came home in 10th place then. Really, really good race from Felipe, wasn't really expecting points, I don't think, from this weekend, certainly after a pretty dismal qualifying, but made his way up the field, kept in the race while others were losing their heads. Didn't really have the pace, outright, but thanks to a few of the retirements, they did manage to find themselves up in 10th place with a late pass on Romain Grosjean. Ericsson was 11th this time behind Nasr. Pit stops ruined Ericsson's race, really fell behind Nasr, while Nasr was up in 9th after the safety car. Of course, we had two safety cars with a lunatic on track, but I'm not even going to discuss, a lunatic on track, really. What can you say about that? But yeah, Ericsson, not the best race for him. Kind of done over, I guess, by the strategy, really. You got a feel for him, really. But this weekend was not nearly as good as last year. If you guys remember back to last year, Ericsson was right on it at, Singapore. Was not able to show that form again, but we'll head to Japan then and see how good Ericsson can be there, possibly try and get one over on Nasr, but I do believe this is going to be a start of a bit of a run of form for Nasr, of course. The first time he scored points since Monaco, so I was absolutely overjoyed. Being plagued with problems all season, it was so good to see him back in the points, albeit, of course, only 1 point scored this weekend. Maldonado was 12th then, various incidents for him, had a collision with Jenson Button, actually ran as high as 8th at one point in the race, but quickly fell back, was kind of out of sync with the pit stops for quite a bit of the race, and just getting involved in a few incidents. A typical race for Maldonado, really. I wouldn't say he wasted an opportunity to score points, because he was probably never really going to score points. Actually, I do apologise, that was Grosjean that was running as high as 8th. Maldonado, in fact, was running as high as 9th at one point, so not a good race for Maldonado once again. Why is he in F1? The question has to be asked once again. Rossi and Stevenson were 13th and 14th. Really, really good to see Rossi 13th. Actually, I do believe he was classified 14th, but really, he finished 13th. Certainly that's what the driver tracker says anyway. He finished 13th across the line. Really, really good performance from him. He had no car radio the whole race, so an absolute superb drive from him. That's why the old shenanigans with the safety car happened, basically because Rossi had no radio communications. Great job from him. Stevens, he was done over at the first safety car. He fell behind Alexander Rossi, and basically once I believe it was the second safety car. Yep, that was right, second safety car. The Manors did not unlap themselves, so they were stuck in traffic, causing absolute havoc. But apart from that, a solid race for Manor. 13th and 14th, they're going to be overjoyed with that, to be honest. Singapore, though, I guess, was a chance to score points, if others had failures, but not enough cars had failures for Manor to score points. A bit of a shame for them, but hey, great debut from Alexander Rossi. No radio at Singapore. First time he's driven the Manor all season. Great job from him. Can't wait to see him in Japan once again. Grosjean, Button, Alonso, Hamilton, Massa, Hülkenberg all retiring. Hülkenberg and Massa, of course, colliding, although Massa may have retired from a technical fault. He was reporting that on the radio, but probably wouldn't have scored points anyways, or at least wouldn't have been up there with Bottas. Didn't quite have the pace to match Bottas this weekend, meaning that Bottas moves ahead of him in the driver's standings. Hamilton, of course, had that failure we still don't know what it is. I'm sure they've released it by now, but at this point I'm recording, we still don't know what problem Hamilton had. Of course, ironic that Vettel retired in Belgium, then Rosberg retired in Monza, now Hamilton's retired in Singapore, so I guess you could say it's all fair and square now. But of course, Rosberg hasn't gained as many points as Hamilton did when Rosberg retired, so that's the crucial thing. Button and Alonso, problems for them once again. Absolutely gutting for Alonso. He was on probably for around 8th or 9th place in this race, so yeah, really a huge amount of bad luck for Fernando Alonso. And finally, Romain Grosjean, another dismal race for him, another dismal race for Lotus, really. I really do hope Renault would take over the team, and that's all I really have to say about Grosjean's race. Did not go very well, lost position to Nasr late on, and I guess the team just decided to call it a day, or at least had a bit of a problem. Anyway, so my overall thoughts on the race then, just to round out the video. I thought it was really, really good. I really enjoyed watching it. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Wasn't the best race of the season, but it's certainly up there, I'd say, in the top 5 races of the season, definitely, you know. Of course, probably not as good as the likes of Hungary and Britain and Malaysia, but possibly, you know, the 4th or 5th best race of the season. Solid 7 out of 10. Driver of the day has to be, oh, that's a tough, you know, Sergio Perez, 7th place. Vettel, of course, you know, dominantly winning. Bottas is a bit of a, you know, surprise winner there in 5th. Verstappen and Sainz did really well. Nasr did really well. I'm going to give it to Max Verstappen for this one. You know, very, very tight between him and Sainz, although Verstappen didn't give the place back, but hey, that's what racing drivers do. I'll give the driver of the day then to Max Verstappen. Race rating overall then 7 out of 10. You guys can let me know down in the comment section below your race rating and driver of the day. Anyway, Japan up next then, cannot wait. Going to be so interesting to see the battle between Ferrari and Mercedes, and of course, as always, the further development of the midfield battle. Watch out for Toro Rosso possibly catching a Lotus, and possibly, rumours are, Lotus are running out of engines. Anyway, on that note, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.